Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, today also we are going to have another talk in this series. May everyone get settled down and give the consent with 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Punaca panang ananda bhikkhu amanasikaritva akinchanyayatana sanyang amanasikaritva neva sanyana sanyayatana sanyang animittang ceto samadhin paticca manasikaroti ekattang titi. Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, we have taken this Chula Sunyatha Sutta as the main topic for this series, and we are today in the 11th talk, and gradually we try our best to sharpen the understanding towards how to descend into the voidness. First and foremost with the sensuous material or materiality, and then perception toward the sensuality, and then the matter itself as an object of meditation, something like breath or something like the earth element in hardness in walking meditation. And once that is trained with or cultivated with and meditated with, slowly that it gives rise to the perception towards the materiality. And when that happens, mind is slowly going to the concentration, deep layers of a concentration with respect to the material sphere, and beyond that go to the immaterial part, and that is the absence of matter. And usually it is not much in the day-to-day jargon, and first you try to experience the space, limitless space, that's the absence of matter. When that happens, one's mind has to really acclimatize into how to be friendly with it, how to season it, how to get acquainted with it. So it is changing of the paradigm happens. So more and more one practice without much of added complication, without adding anything. Ultimately, with long endeavorance, one can understand underneath that experience of voidness, space, limitless space, still the consciousness is playing tricks as to discriminate matter and space, and soon that discriminate consciousness is automatically find footing, establishment in the matter. So therefore, when and where the separation happen, the main task of the consciousness is to pull the attention to the materiality, or if it is possible, sense pleasure, or if it is not there, something to behold, something to be anchored upon, something to be get established. So therefore it never feel comfortable when and where meditation is leading to space, limitless space. So by keeping and by giving this challenge to the consciousness again and again, only you will understand this trick of the consciousness, whereby it is discriminate space and the matter, and naturally magnetized, pulled into the materialistic side, and then keep on proliferating, making stories, making worries, further and further sectarianism, dividing, long, short, black, white, good, bad, all the kind of thing. more and more you engage, you fail to understand your fear, your phobia, or your slipping nature towards a boundless space. So therefore, not only that you must be skillful in earning this boundless space, but to protect it, about to give a fair chance or equal chance, you must understand the trick of the consciousness. Once you understand the trick of the consciousness, you know the matter and absence of matter or space. It has a quite unfair proportion. Matter is insignificant with respect to the limitless space, but that insignificant thing is pulling you, magnetizing you into storytelling, proliferation, discrimination, frustration, daydreaming, fantasizing, thinking, all the kind of thing. At least if you can give a fair chance for this boundless space only, you will understand how much we are blind to this frictionless space, how much we are developing phobia and allergic reactions towards this boundless space, and not that it is not available. Thing is, our mind is so conditioned to this matter, shapes, manners, natural characteristics of the matter make the whole our life completely filled like. But when you are more and more associating this space as well as the matter, then only you can understand the consciousness is never happy about this equal share as well as very exposure of the consciousness. So more and more you understand, you see its perverted nature, its tricky nature, and cheating nature. So it become like a hobby, but sometimes I feel like very dangerous. Sometimes I feel like very uncertain. Sometimes I feel like very endless. But it is most hilarious thing to understand how our mind is making projects, making creativity, making productivity out of this insignificant matter, insignificant something called available, in order to forget about, in order to be ignorant on this boundless space. So when that happens only, you feel nothing worth that we have endeavored so far, because our whole attention was in this sphere, what is called available, the matter, the concrete thing, the measurable thing. And therefore, at a time, mind feel like go and abiding by nothingness, akinchanyayatana, that means theoretical maximum, the no friction and comfort zone, and which is the most majority of the space, majority of the volume. And so far I was ignorant to that. Now at a time mind got completely abided by this akinchanyayatana, that means nothing available. But it is not a completely balanced state. So when and where it is happening, even in the akinchanyayatana, boundless thing called nothing, and you find even though you try to keep all the kind of storytelling, story making, proliferation, volitional thinking, willful action, productivity, creativity, things are happening. The show is running. So much of unintentional things, so much of things happening without your volition, with beyond your agenda. So they are, if you are going to stop them, you understand you can't, because they are happening due to karmic forces. They are happening due to the climatic changes. They are happening due to your food, and they are happening due to your conditioning of the mind. So therefore, even you try your best to not to do, not to get involved, not to get committed, You have to accept there are some things happening involuntary way, in a unwillful way, in a, by its own accord. But you're dead sure, whatever it is happening, not my will, not my volition, but I have my capacity to observe. Things are happening, and they are happening in the involuntary manner, and that is called asampajana kaya sankhara, asampajana chitta sankhara, asampajana mano sankhara. Sampajana means with your consent, with your will, with your conscious decision. But now you really understand things are happening without any conscious contribution, and but they have addressed to yourself, but you are innocent enough that is not happening according to your will, so you are compromising neither perception nor non-perception. You know as much as things are happening without your consent, and these things are happening, but your mind is so much trained now, you know how to not to react. You know how to unassume them, because they are not happening due to your will, not happening your volition. And as far as when they are happening, still you find your volition, your creativity, your productivity, try to take the mean advantage of situation and come out with this and that project, come out with this and that creations, creativity, productivity. As and when it rises, your restrainment is so sharp not to recognize with them. They are happening due to your habit. And whatever the phenomena going to take place, you know they are completely on the cause and effect relationship. And your restrainment is so much refined, even though daydreaming happens, even though fantasizing happens. If you take fantasy and start thinking projects, thinking plans and kind of thing, you understand this is the function called sankhara, the volitional activity, and they are also going to take the mean advantage as far as you are not vigilant. If you are vigilant enough, you can see they are coming, they are going to take the advantage, and you are not going to appreciate, you are not going to second it. Sankhara is coming and again proposing many things. But you know, moment you second it, you become responsible, get committed. So you know the art, let them propose, but not to second it. That is what you call unassuming. That is what does it call by non-reaction. And there you find the objects are there, signs are there, and phenomena is there, but it is totally due to the past momentum. It's happening, but you are not contributing new. But even you are not contributing with the seconding of the suggestion, not to be smart, not to accelerate, not to overestimate, when this flow is happening, it is completely you try to be with the nature. You are not reacting or rejecting what is happening, and you are not going to second the proposals brought up by the consciousness and the volition, and you understand, even though you are not seconding, they shamelessly coming and proposing. And therefore, there's a kind of a guard, there's a kind of a diligence, there's a kind of a vigilance, there's a kind of a mindfulness to maintain this stream of consciousness that you can't say no signs, no objects, no events. There are some events. These events are nothing related to your volition, nothing related to your conscious decision. They are happening. You are the mere observer. And other side, there are a lot of creative things are happening. proposals are coming, and your restrainment is so sharp, moment you are going to implement it, you get committed into the karmic process. New seeds are going to happen, so you must catch them as early as possible, and incessant way, so much of things are happening. So this is the point where the questions are coming. Doubts are happening. You feel like clarifying it as if they are reality. But they are just invalid or infertile seeds, or so to say, just suggestion, unseconded. So moment you are going to proliferate upon that, moment you are going to think about that, moment you are going to assume that, they become fertile, and start to grow. The stories are going to start. Proliferations are going to happen. So it is a very, within your capacity, you can understand when that happens. You can't say no science, and you can't say the science what is available is not going to create new volitions. So much so, the vigilance is happening. There, your meditation is basically not to do something. That is in Buddha's explanation, sabba papa sakarana. You are not committing anything. That means your main thing is to restrain from this habitual story making, habitual daydreaming, habitual thing. You are not worrying, but even then they are coming. So under such circumstances, you have to train your mind to see so much of thoughts are arising without a thinker. So much of pains in the body happening without a feeler. And so much of sounds are coming and addressing. They are coming and hitting to your eardrum. They are not addressing to you. They are just mere sounds. And so much of visual objects, mental or reality, they come, but they won't carry any message unless otherwise you pay special attention. So therefore you know how to not to make troubles, not to make frustrations, not to make tension out of this passing show. So this take a lot of time, or otherwise, if we are not putting the interpretation in this way, otherwise we can say even before the enlightenment of the Buddha, great enlightenment of the Buddha, people reach this neva sanya na sanyayatana in the samatha tradition, and they went into the sphere neither perception nor no perception sphere, but still they consider this is the ultimatum, and therefore they again, when and where they lost the concentration, fall back to the same perpetuation in the existence. But the Buddha, he go into that and understand this is because cause and effect relationship, due to the past potentialities, things are happening. You must not try to not to see them. Let them happen, but don't disclaim them or disavow them, but recognize these are because of the last potential of the past. And meanwhile you can see how your mind is going to get hooked up with them. Mind is coming out with so much of nice stories and ideas, and when that happens, each and every idea, each and every proposal appear very benevolent, appear very broad-minded, and you feel like a Samaritan, you feel like a well-being of the whole world, but whatever may be, you get engaged in fantasizing, daydreaming, thinking, and some or the other, the consciousness is going to get the footing. So you restrain them and understand this situation itself is not the final goal. So instead the Buddha says, amanasikaritva akinchanyayatana sanya, without paying attention to this base of the nothingness, or without paying the attention to this neither perception nor non-perception, you just try to look at this signless space or signless situation, and singleness towards this signless situation. That means free. Mind is fairly free towards your volitions, towards your daydreaming, but whatever happening, you are not reacting. Whatever happening is due to cause and effect relationship, and that is called after passing through this akinchanya etana sanya animittang. You never expect anything to happen. Whatever thing happens, any sign, any object is nothing but a friction, nothing but a tension, nothing but a frustration, nothing but a torturing, nothing but a burning. So therefore don't expect anything. Whatever arising thing without your consent, you consider them, they are just catharsis. They are burning and disappearing due to the past potential. You never claim them, you disclaim them and disavow them, and maintain this kind of attention, kind of diligence, kind of vigilance, or kind of mindfulness. So there you have to maintain it just like a tightrope walking. Otherwise, no sooner the mind will start with new projects, new ideas, and at least doubting about the very thing or creative thing. So not to fall into either side. When it's happening, it is called animittang, not expecting anything. So the Buddha used the term akinchana, animitta. Kinchana means something. Anything arising, anything you going to assume, anything you going to reaction, going to be you are going to hooked up with karmic forces. Ultimately going to be a sankhara. So therefore anything is a defilement. Nothingness is no defilement. So therefore you expect akinchana, not the kinchana. Akinchana is synonym to nibbana, without expecting anything. So any sign you expect, that means you are expecting a frustration, expecting a distraction. So you expect any sign appears, you never claim them, but whenever they disappear, you like disappearance of the sign, where acceptance of no signs is a new art, new way you try to maintain it. When and where you establish into this situation, that is to enter into this situation and acquaintance, gain the stability there and familiarize them, and then be resolute in that, you find it is not limited to sitting meditation. Even in the walking meditation, or even in the day-to-day, or even when you go back to your normal life, you find it is called non-reaction, that is to say aviruddha pratipada, or sometimes it is called apannaka pratipada, so samichi pratipada, or arana pratipada. Whatever arising, you never react. You ready to accept it as a cause and effect relationship, and you know whether like it or not, it is happening. But don't get committed out of this combination by selecting this is good, this is bad, or this is seconding what is happening. It is not asking you a seconding, they are happening by itself. So you never get against it any kind of thing, because they started without your consent. Now they are running the show without your consent. Why should you go and take a responsibility? That is called apannaka pratipada, that is not going against it. And samichi pratipada, that means when we are living in a society, we always must respect to the consent of the majority. That is their consent. And if you have any objection, of course you can tell, you all are happy with this, I am not happy, but you must respect the samichi. Samichi means the consent of the majority. That means what is happening in the nature at large, or society at large. If you are going to stop them or change them, you are asking so much of a friction, so much of antagonism. So live and you consider peace among the group is better than any kind of a adjustment, any kind of a changing, because I am not going to live with this society, this group ever. It is only maybe a half a day, maybe for one event, and next time I am going with another society, and I am not going to change that also. They have their own concern. As far as I go there, I try to live with them. When you are in the Rome, you must behave like a Roman. That's it. And when you go to Rome and try to be Italian or try to Sri Lankan Buddhist in the Rome, that is the place you are making trouble. That is what we call unwanted trouble. And therefore, Samija Patipada, you have to thoroughly understand what are the convention, what are the constitution, what are the timetable, what is the rules and regulation here, and try to fit into that. Otherwise, say goodbye, tata, and leave. Because this is not the only thing in the world. And that means if you're going to change them, you are unwantedly asking trouble. So Buddha presented this Samichi Patipada, that is a quality of a monk. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho, Ujupatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho, Samichi Patipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho. They have the idea, we are beggars. When we are living among the lay people, we have to depend upon them about our food, our clothing, our dwelling, and our medicine. We can't interpret terms, being beggars. So whatever they are going to give, we must know how to make it into our concoction and don't demand anything. We have no rights. But as lay people, you may think you have a big bank account, or you have insurance, and you have family members, you have assets. So therefore you are going to interpret terms. Ultimately Satan will interpret terms upon you. That is what the Jesus told. So you have to be so humble. That humbleness is not idiotness. It is proper understanding of the environment, proper understanding of the constitution, proper understanding of the timetable, and see how much I can fit into that in order to maintain the peace, in order to respect the majority. That is called Samicha Patipanna. From Arana Pratipada, Rana means arrogance. If you become arrogant to anything, that you are making your mind tense. You are making yourself frustrated. You are burning yourself, and torturing is there. So instead of arrogance, you can develop the art of non-arrogance. That is Arana Pratipada. And that means just like water, whenever you pour into any shape, any vessel with any shape, the water take the shape of the vessel and go to the lowest point, always maintain the upper very balanced and water level and reflect the whatever rising. So that must be your mind. In order to go up to that, you first and foremost to understand we can't be so flexible, so water-like mind when sense objects. They are always with one-upmanship, always with conceit. So therefore, you have to do away with them even on an experimental basis. But even then, due to habituation, due to our acquaintance with long time, our mind is still keeping sense perception. As far as sense perception is there, mind is so sectarianism, it is so discrete, and therefore always have discrimination between the good and the bad, big and the small, black and the white, and all the kind of thing. So you try to do away with keeping the mind occupied with in-breath and out-breath, or your sitting posture, or your left leg and the right leg. There you understand elementary characteristics. So when and where that become familiarized, you will be done away with the sense objects and the sense perception, and instead mind is occupied with this materiality, and slowly that materiality also start to dwindle off, start to fade off. When it is happening, the perception towards the materiality happen, and that is also mentally you see pictures, sounds, jerking of the hands, some smells, some tastes, some thinking, everything happen. Then onward you start the art of disclaimer. Everything happening is mind-made. Mind is the forerunner and everything is mental. So therefore, once reduced to that level, you start to not to claim. And once you go into the non-material sphere, you understand how the consciousness is going to make a have and have not, and out of that make stories with the positive side. Once that art is learned, and when you train yourself in such a way not to get caught up, not letting the consciousness to take you for a ride, you appreciate the nothingness, space, endless space, as well as something heavy. And once you go further and further, you let the thing happen which is due to cause and effect, and you are not reacting to them. And as far as future projections are concerned, you try your best to do away with. So this is the supreme level of restrainment, supreme level of moral shame and the moral fear. This is the sila, the highest, whereby you never get committed due to urge. That urges are due to karmasava, that means taints regarding the sense desire, bhavasava, the taints pertaining to your existence, avijjasava, taints regarding your ignorance. So you never allow them to take upper hand. When and where mind become tensed, when and where mind become agitated due to taints regarding senses, sensual pleasure, you understand now out of this calm situation, again a turmoil started, a whirlpool started, backed by these taints regarding the sense pleasure, or sometimes about the existence, that I and our people, my and mine properties. So how to maintain them? So therefore there are also the tension going to start. So when and where it arises, you understand. When and where you are to think about the future and the past, that may be benevolent from the economical, social point of view, but you are eccentric. You are no more in the present moment. Whenever you are going to think my prosperity and my fame gain, as well as our family, our society, each and every moment, mind is no more mindful. So therefore they appear very prolific, they appear very broad-minded, but the thing is just pull you off the balance. So therefore this existence, taints regarding the existence, very difficult for people think about society at large, or socialization, not the society at large, socialization and party-going kind of people. They always try to share with other people, and more you're going to think you are losing your solitude immediately. You are going to lose your freedom immediately. You are going to lose your peace of mind immediately. But there's a kind of a justification telling, never mind, I am a social person, I am a very popular person, and day by day I am become popularity. Each and every time you have to understand, due to these taints pertaining to the existence, you lose your very solitude. You lose your very peace of mind. And the other one is, there's a kind of a ignorance. You experience, you feel, or you believe the matter. The materiality is the source of pleasure, or luxury, or happiness, or richness. So therefore you expect the matter, that also not even experience. You always change the visual objects to be changes from colors, different colors and different shapes. Same object with the same color, often you feel boring. Often you feel monotonous. So our task is to, as far as ignorance is concerned, changing the shape and the color regarding the visual objects. And sounds, if you are listening the same sound, soon it become bored. So you get stereo sounds or mono sounds or all the kind of sounds. It is rock music or jazz music or western music or eastern music or human or natural. It's full of. So each and every diversification we consider as a technological development, scientific development, but the thing is you become more and more slave into these changing shapes, changing the rhythms of the sounds. As far as the smells are concerned, the same smell never keep our mind burning. It always wish changing. So therefore the amount we are paying, amount we are worrying about the changing of the smell, and amazing the way that we take time or we spend money on the change smell and preferable perfumes. And the tastes, different foods, morning one thing, lunch another thing, dinner something, in between something, and drinking something. So always we change of the taste, and more it become diversified. We are fully amused, changing one to the other, and we never understand, we have no chance to understand how much we get engaged in the different tastes. And one person analyzing on this food industry and this different cooking systems, they say even the kings and the Maharajas earlier used to eat something gone bad, cooked in morning, and still they have to eat in the night, and therefore they also had so much of trouble to keep the taste updated. But even now the middle class person can get in the market any kind of food. Go to Sri Lanka and you can get Italian food, you can get Chinese food, you can get Muslims, you can get Indian, anything. So we feel we all like Rajas and Maha kings like. We feel like we have all the facilities just by selecting the restaurant we can change it. But we don't know how much we have developed the restrainment towards these changing tastes and to just use the food for utility value instead of this luxurious and consumerization. If it is so, how much it is easy for us to get a lot of time for meditation rather than going and overtime and earning more and more to have different tastes. So that is how ignorance going to say eating is the best next to the sex in the world, unless otherwise you are not an enlightened being. And the worst thing is, whenever you do away with the sensuous pleasure and the sexual pleasure, that is to say celibate life, you can't imagine how much your taste buds are improving and asking different tastes. Because it wish to compensate this sensuous and the sexual pleasure by this food. So therefore, more and more you go to this monastic kind of life, you develop so much of complications regarding digestion and regarding the food recipes. So therefore, if someone wish to still live a monastic life and to maintain this descending into the voidness day by day, he or she has to have so much of understanding regarding one's own food, how much it must be healthy and not to create the craving, and therefore to get rid of this ignorance pertaining to food or the taste. So these things are more related to the taints pertaining to the ignorance. And the body and the tactile sensation, you can imagine how much changes in front of our eyes over the last 30-40 days regarding our furniture, the bedding and our sheets, our chairs and our household furniture. They are so much diversification. And you can see the luxuries in the vehicles, so much. So therefore we are chasing one after the other, each and every model in the automobile industry is assuring more and more luxury. But with this, all the luxuries, where the nation, where the humanity is going, it's more and more toward the frustration, more and more toward the tension. So therefore, believing the materiality or contact, soft contacts or luxurious contact is the only way of pleasure, that is how we are training our second generation. That is how the politicians are making their constitutions. This is how economists are writing formulas. This is how socialists, people try to make a world without poor people and ultimately make it prosperous only on the matter. So that ignorance you have to slowly get rid of, because this is going against the grain kind of a thinking. But the whole world will go against you. So therefore you must not make any antagonism, you must not make any reaction to the convention, but internally you must understand, if you wish to descend into more and more voidness, your internal, not only the correct view, but about your thinking, the Samma Sankappa has to go through an evolution that has been stopped for the human brain for long time since. So therefore scientists find huge gap between the nearest close by animal to the human, that is called the link. There is a link between the how do you call the animals between the human being. And human beings also, their mental development has been so corrupted and stopped because they are always thinking about the evolution with respect to the matter. So when and where the Buddha presenting this kind of a descending into the void kind of a thinking, then the Buddha says the maximum it will take 7 years for one to acclimatize into this situation. But if you are sharp enough, you can reduce into 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, half, 3/4, 1/4, and ultimately it is within 7 days. Once you realize, once you understand it, to internalize about the taint pertaining to the ignorance, it's a matter of time. If you try to accelerate, that very acceleration in itself become a defilement. That itself become a distortion to your natural growth. So therefore more and more you try to be with what is happening, whatever it may be the phenomena arising, but not to react. And meanwhile, don't do any kind of a conscious decision or any creative thinking. Just restrain yourself with this kind of a thing. More and more you go there, the Buddha says, definitely kamasava, bhavasava, avijjasava, that means taints pertaining to the sensuous desire, taints pertaining to the existence or continuity, and the taints pertaining to this ignorance, it will become very vivid, very valid in your stream of consciousness. So you have to understand them in a very scientific way, as if someone else mind, as if someone else stream of consciousness. So of course you are observing the representative of the human mind, And you see, it is being conditioned so much, so therefore even though you know, even though you wish to learn a non-reactional way, it takes so much of time. So that is why the first and foremost, you have to get the perception. Once that perception is being familiarized, slowly, your mind or maturity of the perception is called chitta. The mind become accustomed to the new way of thinking, the how to do away with this frustration, how to do away with this tension, and more you go there, more and more you implement, then and there you can understand the lack of frustration. And earlier you had the problem of alienation from the others, so it appear like outcasting and cornering. Now that very loneliness changing to the aloneness, and there you are try to understand the happiness of aloneness, and that is being called as the solitude. And more you practice this kind of descending into voidness, you find this very solitude it was there throughout your life. It was an endowment. It was a gift for you, but you try your best to get socialized, get extrovert, get more fame gain and all the kind of thing at the cost of this solitude. So when and where you live a life very humble, down to earth, and try to fit into the phenomena, why to try to fit into the environment, you find solitude is so proximate, so under your nose, and only thing you have to do is just being, doing nothing. And in order to take this doing nothing as your highest quality, it is not a mere psychological game. You have to practice slowly, the restrainment towards the morality, restrainment towards the concentration, restrainment towards the wisdom. Then only you will slowly justify this value of solitude and the freedom, peace of mind or contentment. So ultimately you find it is nothing to earn, but your main task is to not to disturb or not to add turmoils into this stream of consciousness in terms of taints pertaining to the sense desire, in terms of the taints pertaining to the existence, in terms of the taints pertaining to this ignorance. So when and where you bound to see them under your very nose, you have your complete will or complete changing power or controlling power, which is your jurisdiction. So even though you have not completed the task, you understand second person is not involved. Everything is within your control, so therefore it's a matter of implementation. Even though you have not gone, you have not reached the final destiny, and now slowly you will understand two characters. One thing, you will never complain and you will never demand anything. Therefore you try best to fit into the situation. Still, even though on principle you understand I must not demand anything, some demands may come while you are interacting with the society as well as the people, environment. Then and there you can understand this demand is due to a taint pertaining to maybe sense desire, maybe due to the existence, maybe due to the taints pertaining to the ignorance. So when and where the mind is fighting and grumbling with demand, instead of expressing outwardly, sometimes you are committing and that is mean the transgress by expressing, but sometimes within the mind you can digest and see this is pertaining to the taints and especially to the sense desire or to the existence or to the ignorance, and ultimately the teaching of the Buddha, as well as your past experience, you will understand quickly if you are going to transgress it, express it, or kind to do it, it make permanent damage to the society. It make permanent damage to the existing balance. Instead, if you digest it and see, you understand the question within yourself, answer within yourself, the reasoning out within yourself, and that is what you call the contemplation on Dhamma, Dhammanupassana, and you find each and every mistake or each and every grumbling regarding the demand or each and every refusal. No, this is not with me, I don't like this. You understand how the friction arises, how the tension arises, and when you, instead of expressing and getting the support outside, you will work it backward and try to trace what is the source for this kind of refusal, and nothing but the taints pertaining to this sense desire, existence, as well as for the ignorance. So ultimately you feel your circuit, your system is completely understanding, so you can sympathize yourself. It is natural for my mind to be grumbling and demanding and refusing, but that is because I thought that external world can do some benefits, external can do help in this context, so much so you become a slave, you inferior. But more and more you practice, you understand no second person involved, no external authority involved, your reasoning and your contentment upon yourself ultimately explain how come that kind of a turmoil, how come that kind of a demanding and refusal. And moment you sympathize yourself, you understand as far as you are maintaining this body, as far as you are existing, you can't do away with that, but dead sure you do it to the utmost minimum. It is slowly happening. Friction is less and less. More and more you to become alert and concerned about that. Then when and where someone is demanding, when and where someone is grumbling regarding refusal, you can slowly take it as a case study and sympathize it. That very person is very innocent. But these taints pertaining to the sense desire, taint pertaining to existence, and taint pertaining to the ignorance is not open to him. He thinks this is as myself, but instead the Buddha says they are just cause and effect. But that particular person may or may not be thinking from this correct viewpoint or correct thinking pattern. So therefore ultimately he get entangled with the society, grumbling with, and then make turmoils. As if a fly go and stuck on a cobweb. Soon he touch it, wherever it may be, the spider, it exactly know where it has touched and immediately go and take the mean advantage. So whenever you give a turmoil, the volition and the consciousness going to take the mean advantage of it, and ultimately come out and this and that rosy kind of proposal. But moment what happens is you are out of concentration, you become eccentric, and you immediately you can feel the tension. Immediately you can feel the frustration, and more your sensitivity towards the frustration or tension or burning or torturing nature will be very, very sensitive. Even then, the Buddha says, you will, even though you are reducing it, even though you become skillful, as far as this body is there, as far as these six sense doors are there, as far as you recognize this life and the body, this what you call existence, this is what you call living, this is continuing. And your mindfulness, your diligence your vigilance is to keep it is as low ebb as possible, and you develop kind of a skillfulness to descend more and more into the voidness. And when you go in there, you understand now you are in the correct art. You know what to do. But even then, even though you are very skillful, the things are happening. The contacts are happening. Phenomena is taking place, but you never consider this phenomena attributable to a person, external or internal or omnipotent, omnipresent. You try your best. This is due to cause and effect relationship. And moment you attribute into, it is due to my fault or it is due to outside, you are falling into that wrong view regarding the soul or self. And that is the easiest answer. That is the easy way of tackling the problem. So therefore, the believers of God believe God is the creator and we are the creatures. And we, the ultimatum of us is depending on the God. But when you analyze from this point of view, God is created by the creatures. Because they find God is the answer for all and every question, because you can attribute something happening due to someone is not here. We do not know. So for easily you attribute to the God and you can wash your hand and wait. So therefore not the God creating, creator is creating the creatures, but the creatures are creating omnipotent, omnipresent God. It is like a big dustbin. Whatever the things not sorted out, you can put into that till he is omnipresent, he is omnipotent, his decision is the last, and that becomes the escapism. That's the way out of escapism. But the Buddha don't give that kind of a shortcuts. He says, you bring everything into up to your jurisdiction, handle it, and ultimately you prove it. Even within this, my jurisdiction, things are happening due to cause and effect relationship. Even if I wish not to get committed in the physical, verbal and mental way, still the phenomena is going. Drama is going due to the past causes, or due to the climatic causes, or due to the food, or due to the consciousness. So when and where such a thing happen, you know where to attribute. It is not a personification of anything. It's a universal laws. More and more you to understand, you find hardly any difference between a being and a tree. Trees, they don't have any consciousness, but still propagate, still adopt into the nature, still understand cold and this thing. So therefore one of my teachers used to say, I envy these trees because they are so indifferent. They never make any grudge. They never ask anything. But you see, they are growing. And ultimately, when the trees come together, it is called a shrub or jungle. And the Buddha says, jungle is such a complete system. It asking nothing from the human or nature. It preserves everything and give everything to the human. So therefore, because it don't claim that I am doing. Everything is happening in a cause and effect relationship. So when and where you also turn in like that, you understand more than a tree, you observe everything. You see these things are happening, not due to my will and every kind of thing, but I am a neutral observer. But though it is happening due to the cause and effect relationship, I have no rights to initiate more projects or creativity or productivity, restrain up to that, and what is happening, ready to accept as such. So when that happens, you find everything is nothing but a void of your volition, void of your will, void of your determination. But your vigilance is so open to, even though it is not out of your will, whatever happens, you are not going to justify it, you are just to observe as it is. When you are observing, the Buddha says everything appear void. More and more you try to void, and when and where you see voidness more and more, he said the evil one can't see you. When and where you see things as substantial, material, concrete, the evil one, the Mara, see you as a crux or peg or point or reference. More and more you see things in terms of voidness, the Mara, the evil one, can't look at you, can't pinpoint you. For example, when and where a water pool, a whirlpool is there, then one can say this is a water whirlpool, big or small, this and that. Once the whirlpool is dissolved into the water, you can't pinpoint. It go back to the water, of course started with water. As far as there is a turmoil, as far as there is a special dance, that particular center is visible. Exactly, more and more you to see this voidness or void of tension, volition, void of will, void of determination, things happen very smoothly. Things happen completely natural. Things happen completely frictionless. And being you, the observer, things are so aesthetic. It is appear like a poem. It appear like a very nice picture or sculpture because you are completely entertaining it. Never try to adjust it. You think you have the adjustability as a role, but to see as it is and take part in it as it is. So this is the biggest aesthetic thing, the biggest poem. So therefore, when and where the Buddha is giving a sermon, or when and where he is acting in his career, everything is so beautiful because he has nothing to gain someone's favor. He is nothing to convince others. He is like a blooming flower. When the flower bud is ready, if the sun appears, the blooming happens. It is none of the task of the flower or the sun, but it is a very beautiful thing. As far as you are going to do something, it is so ugly. It is so arrogant. It is so unfair, and ultimately you are the one to suffer. So that is why the Buddha says, this is because of the conditioning. Otherwise, each and every one is a good being. Their inner part is glittering and very pure. But the external crust or external rust is due to the acquaintance with the society, and even then it's a very tiny layer. But appearance-wise, that is what you can see. When you are contemplating on the 32 parts, Kesa Loma Nakadanta Tacho, your head hair, body hair, nails, teeth and the skin, that is what you can see as a human being. Exactly the way, this is what you can do beautification. But more than that, there are so much of parts inside. Exactly the way when you take your whole mind, so-called mind, external things, appearance, of course defiled due to the interaction with the world, but internally, after piercing this thin layer, internally you can see the purity. As far as this purity is concerned, all the individuals are the same. So, no one blameworthy. So therefore, the Buddha gave the equal chances and equal value for the human beings, but each and every individual is not happy. They are not ready to accept my internal is pure. They think I am totally bad. I am totally with mischiefs or misdeeds or defilements and defiled like. So therefore, when and where you look at the life with that viewpoint, definitely you are the first and foremost sufferer. So therefore, you have to understand this external crust is there. That is because of the interaction, but internally you have so much of purity, and that is what everyone is, and that is much, much advantageous with respect to the trees and the external living and non-living matter. But when and where you become a human, having so much of capacity in your mind, you create so much of friction. You create so much of unwanted turmoil and expect others also to do the same. And even the Buddha comes and says, no darling, you are beautiful, you are good. You will say the Buddha has to wear spectacles because he can't see properly. So much we are antagonistic with this good, antagonistic about the beauty, and instead we try to beautify more and more you try, you become so and so ugly. So let the things happen. So in order to let the things to happen by its own accord, one way, one viewpoint is to look the world as a void, or descend into the void. And when you are analyzing in this sutta, it is rather applying, or in the depth, it is applying about your volition, about your will, about your determination, about your future hopes. So each and every one is called as sankhara, or will, or volition is called sankhara, and it's a very famous among the Buddhists, sabbe sankhara dukkha. Whatever the determination, whatever the volition, whatever your free will, whatever your projections, everyone suffering, leading to suffering. And sabbe sankhara anicca, they are not permanent. So therefore more and more you try to live without much of volition, much of will, or much of projections, so much so you find easy to live here and now. When and where you are burdened with this so much of volitional and willful and free will and determination and projects and all the kind of thing, you'll be very smart in the worldly knowledge, you will be twisting your brain, but simply you are missing the bus, you are missing the present moment, you are missing the mindfulness, you are missing the diligence and the vigilance. And as far as majority of people are like that, eccentric, you find it is natural. It is not. It is not. That is why Buddha says it is eccentric. Because the Buddha's knowledge is in the world. So therefore, if you can look from that viewpoint, you can understand. Moment you understand you are eccentric, you like it or not, you are in the healing process. You are coming back to the natural. So otherwise, as far as the majority are in the same disease, you can't call them as healthy. And for an example, it says once in the Afghanistan and in the Pakistan, everyone was smoking with marijuana or the ganja. And anyone is not smoking, they catch them and put into the jail. Because they are not following the natural and cultural habits. So that is the world of the people smoking. They find that non-smokers are law breakers. But we know that the smoking is completely artificial thing. It is something destroying your health. So that is why the Buddha says, even the whole world going against it, he says, Sunyatha vakhanti, descending into the void, is still possible. You are not totally corrupted. You are not, each and everyone is not a hopeless case. But the thing is, you yourself has to develop the confidence, maybe by listening to Buddha, or maybe little reinforced by deductive thinking or inferential knowledge, or by the rational knowledge, and further it will be heavily reinforced by your little bit of experience. When and where you do away with the sense pleasure and the sensuous perception, so much so you get the relief. And more you do away with the matter and the perception regarding the matter, still further you feel the relief. Likewise, you can practice up to your capacity, and it is one-to-one relationship. More and more you apply, so much so you can see the lack of tension under your very nose. So explaining this, the Buddha says, once that you learn the art of how to do away with the stains pertaining to sense desire, pertaining to existence, and the pertaining to the ignorance, even though you are not completely done away with it, once you learn the art, you start to feel the relief. And the Buddha says, I claim this as abiding by voidness or descending to voidness. Whenever Ananda heard it properly, keep it in mind properly, understood the properly, and luckily he raised the question. Then the Buddha says, if anyone go to this kind of a state and realize it, and for his knowledge, whatever the past history, no one has gone beyond that. This is the ultimatum. Even in the present, the Buddha says, for his omniscient knowledge, no one can think about beyond that. And he says, even in the future, whoever may be dwelling or abiding by voidness, this is the maximum. So therefore, they give the final remark, Ananda, you must make your way of discipline. Discipline yourself in order to go again and again into, or descend more and more again into the voidness. More and more you go there, then and there you try to feel this lack of tension, and instead of asking that state or this state or samatha or vipassana, you must gauge your progress with respect to the tension. If it is releasing slowly, and don't try to accelerate it, consider this as a golden formula. When and whatever it may be going to give the tension, it is evil. It is a defilement. Whatever it may be going to release your tension, that is called the skillfulness, and that is what you call the well-being of oneself. And easing or releasing of tension, don't expect by others. Don't try to trust materiality or any golden formula. Your very mind is the one. So therefore, if you have any kind of a well-being, idea about well-being, and compassion towards oneself, so this is the way. Be aware about the tension, and other side of that you can easily put the mindfulness. When and where you are mindful, no chance for the tension to happen. This whole teaching is how to establish mindfulness, or how to be steadfast in mindfulness. For that only one way to explain reduction of tension and abiding by voidness. And this is not the only teaching of the Buddha. This is one way. A complete syllabus is there, and more you practice, definitely you are bound to get more and more freedom, more and more solitude, more and more peace of mind. So hope these talks as well as the meditation was enough to give a glimpse of what is the teaching of the Buddha. And when you continue to like that, continue to practice like that, make it a faithful job. Because at the beginning you will not understand the totality unless otherwise you keep on practice out of faith. And the second thing is regularity. You have to do it in a regular way. And if you are going to do overnight in one day and next 7 or 8 days, if you are not practicing, the momentum never gather. The third thing is the meticulous way, respectful way. Do it as your utmost, because this is the only thing going to give the well-being of yourself, compassion to yourself, and more you be faithful and regular and meticulous, and your life, your spiritual life will develop in a steadfast way, or your backbone of the spirituality will develop, and later with that role model, a silent sermon, your silent behavior will teach the others rather than you are to give a big sermons or convincing others or missionary work. So therefore your individual setting up of an individual role model is the best you can do for yourself, as well as it is naturally giving the silent sermon. So with that remark, I would like to sum up the today's talk, as well as this will be the end of the series also. Thank you very much for your valuable participation.